Important developments in the Middle East and beyond have not spared Saudi Arabia of pressure from advocacy groups over its human rights record. Riyadh is facing renewed calls to release the dozens of people it has arrested since September in what has been condemned as worrying crackdown on dissent. The crackdown has seen over 60 prominent clerics, writers, academics, religious figures, journalists and activists put in jail. In a statement on the second anniversary of Saudi Arabia's last mass execution of 47 adults, UN human rights experts and groups including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have condemned the latest crackdown. They said, quote, "We are witnessing the persecution of human rights defenders for peacefully exercising their rights to freedom of expression, assembly, association and belief, as well as in retaliation for their work." The Saudi government has ignored repeated calls by UN experts and others to halt these violations, rectify them and prevent their recurrence, unquote.
Well, I think up until the present time, that has been the case, that particularly the United States, Britain and France have been doing business as usual with Saudi Arabia, despite the horrendous human rights situation both inside the country and, of course, the Saudi and United Arab Emirates and the allies, their allies' role in the Yemen war, which is the greatest humanitarian catastrophe facing any country on the planet at the present time. The British, but things are changing. If the BBC now has been almost doing daily coverage of the humanitarian crisis in Yemen. Recently, a British cabinet minister told the Saudis that they have to let humanitarian aid through, and that starving the population is a war crime, and they cannot, use that tactic.
The repressive measures by Saudi Arabia have intensified after Mohammed bin Salman was appointed as the kingdom's crown prince in June. This is under Saudi Arabia's terrorism law, which outlaws any anti-government activity as an act of terror. Human Rights Watch has called for the UN to sanction bin Salman, saying his allowing women to drive has made some people blind to his repressive tactics against dissidents. The group refers to the purge in Saudi Arabia. It says bin Salman's decision to detain elites over alleged corruption without due process and his responsibility for the ongoing humanitarian catastrophe in Yemen demand more scrutiny.
Well, I agree with Human Rights Watch that the situation in Saudi Arabia is very bleak, and there's a massive violation of human rights. And arguably, Saudi Arabia is in competition with Myanmar with regard to having the worst human rights situation in the country. Bahrain is not far off the mark either. But Human Rights Watch is bang on. They are echoing the concerns now that are being picked up by the British government, even by the Trump administration, and of course the United Nations, which called for sanctions and measures to be taken against the leaders of Saudi Arabia, in particular the Crown Prince. It was published in the Washington Post. So this is the second most important paper in the United States after the New York Times.
Figures show there are some 30,000 political prisoners in Saudi Arabia. The Saudi regime rejects the figure. It, however, says political prisoners have a full right to a fair trial and can hire lawyers to defend them. But numerous reports show prisoner abuse and torture are rampant in Saudi Arabia. The Saudi royals who were recently arrested in the bin Salman purge are said to be tortured as well. All this is taking place under the noses of the US and other Western allies of Saudi Arabia. Washington and other Western clients of Saudi oil are accused of adopting double standards with regard to the issue of human rights when it comes to Riyadh.